We Are Iowa.
The campaign trail has never been hotter. Local 5 is your local election headquarters tonight. Good evening. Welcome to Local 5 News, home of weareiowa.com. I'm Jack Miller.
And I'm Stephanie Engelson, live from Pella tonight, and glad you're joining us on this beautiful summer evening here in Pella. Yeah, Jack, it's been an exciting day here in Pella. Republican presidential candidate, newly minted Republican presidential candidate Jeb Bush is here in the state today. He had just announced his official candidacy for president on Monday. So what do? Of course, they come to Iowa. They got to get cozy with those Iowa voters right away, and he is doing just that. Let's take a look at where he's been today in our state. It all started in the town of Washington, Iowa, where he did, of course, make that contrast to Washington, D.C. He met with voters there at a private home, and then he is set to host a town hall meeting here. It's going to start right around 5:15, rallying voters here in the town of Pella. And of course, our chief political correspondent, Amanda French, has been following him all day long, with him every step of this maiden voyage here back to Iowa as a presidential candidate. And she's here with us
Jeb
now.
Bush
Amanda.
may lead in the national polls, and he has some of the most name recognition out there on the campaign trail. But the former Florida governor isn't quite as popular here in Iowa. Now, this is his first trip to this state since officially announcing his candidacy, and he said he is here to win the Iowa caucuses, which means he has a lot of work to do.
It's great to be back in Iowa, and for the first time I can say I'd like to have your vote.
In a quaint neighborhood in Washington, Iowa, Jeb Bush set out to stand out among the growing Republican field.
There are a lot of good people running for president. I admire them. Many of them are my friends. But the question to think about is, who has the leadership skills to take conservative ideas and turn them into reality?
Jeb Bush has to play it careful in Iowa.
ABC's political director Rick Klein says Bush will have a hard time competing in Iowa with such a long list of strong Republican candidates.
Can't get wiped out in Iowa. This state has had mixed success for his family in the past. He's going to have to put a big effort into doing well in Iowa.
Klein says that means Bush needs to distinguish himself from his brother and father.
You look at that campaign logo, it doesn't say Bush, it says Jeb. And I think we're going to hear a lot about the Jeb story as opposed to the Bush story.
Part of Jeb Bush's story recently has been about his faith. He's Catholic, but has said a person of faith shouldn't act on it in a political realm.
That's being a human being, and I'm surprised that this is such an extraordinarily complicated thing, but maybe I'm not expressing it well. Am I missing something?
The only thing Jeb Bush might be missing at the moment is support from the people in this state, something he's working to improve on during his latest trip to Iowa. After that stop in Washington, Iowa this morning, Jeb Bush and his campaign crew also stopped in Sigourney, and now they are in Pella, where he is expected to speak and have a rally not far from here in just a few minutes. Stephanie.
All right, thank you, Amanda, for that. And of course, throughout this whole election season, it's about you, the voters. So we want to know what you think. Does Jeb Bush stand a chance at taking Iowa in the caucuses and then even in the general election? What do you think on that? You can connect with us on Facebook and Twitter. Send us an email to news@weareiowa.com or call us in the newsroom, 1-800-858-5555. We love to hear what you think about this story or any others, so please be in touch with us. And now, earlier I mentioned that I had an interview with ABC World News Tonight anchor David Muir. He's actually in town. They are broadcasting live from Pella. That starts at 5:30, which is right after our program here, so just keep it on Local 5. And he's following Jeb Bush today because he actually had the first sit-down one-on-one interview with Jeb Bush since he announced that he is running for president. So I got to talk to him about a number of things, including why he chose Pella today.
Jeb Bush is here, obviously, for a rally right around news time, so we thought this would be the perfect place to do at least part of the interview. We were behind the scenes with him on the campaign trail, and this is where he's ending his day, and so it's where they brought us to in order to be along on the campaign trail with him. And it's extraordinary. I was saying to you that this comes around so quickly. It feels like we were here just yesterday. These 4-year cycles go faster and faster, don't they?
They do, and it seems like the election's coming right up. So what do each of these candidates have to do you think, in these crowded fields to set themselves apart and really register with Iowans?
Well, one of the things I asked Governor Bush about was this notion that even his own mother, Barbara Bush, had. She famously said, you know, we've had enough Bushes in the White House. She's come around on that. She's changed her mind, but there are a lot of Americans who are saying to themselves, really, a Bush or a Clinton? Isn't there anyone else out there? And I think for both Governor Bush and for the former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, there is an additional bar, which is to get over that fatigue. I think Americans yearn for something new, and so the challenge for them will be to craft a message that feels new and that can energize people in the way that any candidate, quite frankly, is going to have to in order to win.
Okay. Iowa gets a bad rep for not deserving its first in the nation status. We hear this quite a bit. What do you think about that?
You will never hear me say Iowa shouldn't be first. I love coming to Iowa every 4 years. And, we saw it this morning with Governor Bush at one of his events. Picnic tables, conversations. There were donuts on the table. I don't know how many donuts he's eating these days. He's on the paleo diet.
There you go, the paleo diet. And you can catch more of that exclusive interview with David Muir on World News Tonight. Again, that is starting at 5:30, right after our broadcast. And he also mentioned that in that broadcast live from Pella, they're going to do a Made in America segment on something that's very special to Iowans. He wouldn't tell me what it is. He wants it to be a surprise. So you're definitely going to want to stay tuned for that one. But an exciting day here in Pella, Jack.
Stephanie, there's so much going on right now in Iowa with David Muir here, Jeb Bush making his announcement here today. And of course, Jeb Bush isn't the only presidential candidate that's even in Iowa right now, right?
Oh, that's right. The state's hopping. A familiar face here for Iowans. GOP candidate Mike Huckabee, of course, former governor of Arkansas and the 2008 Iowa Republican caucus winner there. He was spending time today stopping by small towns throughout our state campaigning this morning. He was in Vaughn's Cafe, which is in Clarinda. He then went to meet with some supporters at the Pizza Ranch in Red Oak. Pizza Ranch, always popular with anybody who's on a campaign. And tonight he will be stopping at a coffee shop in Creston to sit down with everyday Iowans and hear issues that are concerning to them. And another political candidate who was just in the Hawkeye State is under fire for some comments that he made specifically about the American dream. And we're talking about Donald Trump here. In an exclusive interview, George Stephanopoulos asked if he would explain what he meant by that comment.
The American dream is dead. Now, are you worried at all voters going to hear that and say, hey, that Donald Trump, he doesn't love America, he doesn't believe in America?
I love America so much, George, and I see what's going on with regulation. I see what's going on with the hatred that everybody has for each other. You look at Baltimore, you look at Cleveland, you look at all of the places, you're just exploding. We have an African-American president that we've never had it so bad.
All right, the real estate mogul and reality TV star also talked about his strategy to defeat ISIS if he's elected. Trump said he would bomb the oil fields in Iraq to cut off the terror group from its source of revenue. So on top of Bush's announcement, Trump brings the major Republican candidate count to 12, and of course we're seeing them flow through the state. Jeb Bush again is here in Pella right now. I was just told by a campaign worker a little while ago that after his rally here in Pella, wheels up, he's flying off to the West Coast. But Jack, he's going to be back. They're all going to be back. This is going to be a familiar sight for all of us. So reporting live from Pella, for Local 5 News, Stephanie Engelson, We Are Iowa.
All right, Stephanie, thanks so much. We'll be watching for the latest on Jeb, and of course we'll be watching David Muir right here on